There's a certain charm to old internet mysteries that seems to be lacking in recent times. Perhaps it's the authenticity that has disappeared, since 95% of newer mysteries online seem to be lazy attempts at ARGs, or creepy websites, that are nothing more than unimaginative codes, or so-called shocking images we've now become desensitized to. In this video, we'll cover a few old internet mysteries that are sure to evoke feelings of nostalgia. I've included one or two that you'll probably have heard of before, as well as a couple of more obscure ones that might be new to you. Let's investigate. If you enjoy internet mysteries and generally disturbing content, feel free to subscribe and turn on notifications for more content like this. If you're interested in supporting the channel, you can become a Ko-fi member or a channel member to watch uncut videos and other perks, or you can leave me a tip by clicking the thanks under this video. Thanks to anyone who considers this. This video will cover topics that some might find triggering, including drugs and disappearances. Viewer discretion is advised. You can become a Ko-fi member to watch an uncut and ad-free version of this video, which features extra mysteries that were too graphic for this cut. On the 15th of August 2012, a YouTube video was uploaded with the title, Persistent Trip, Dachira. The description read, "This video was uploaded to YouTube several years ago and I haven't been able to find it recently. As I recall, the uploader claimed it was found footage. He said he found the tape on a park bench or something and was concerned about the person depicted therein. It appears he may have been having a rather bad time with some sort of psychoactive substance, possibly datura or some similar long-lasting deliriant. I apologise to the creator of the video if this is something he would rather not have publicised and will remove it immediately if requested by the creator. If anyone has any information regarding the welfare of this person and would like to share any details, please do so. It is a rather fascinating and perplexing recording." The 2-minute video showed a man, possibly in his mid-30s, explaining that he had been tripping for around 2 months. He said the date was the 5th of March 2008, so he apparently took something around the 5th of January. Although the title of the re-uploaded video mentions datura, it's unlikely that that's what he took. He mentions boiling the roots, and people usually consume the seeds of the datura plant. Others have suggested that he had ayahuasca, a potent psychedelic tea that has been used in indigenous cultures in the Amazon and Orinoco basins for hundreds of years. However, ayahuasca is made from the stems and leaves of plants, not the roots. One possibility I found was mandragora, which contains highly biologically active alkaloids, particularly in the roots and leaves. Consuming the root can produce strong hallucinogenic and hypnotic effects. Mandragora has a long history of use in traditional medicine, though I wasn't able to find a huge amount of information on recreational use. Ingesting the roots is very dangerous though, as they are poisonous and can cause symptoms such as vomiting, blurred vision, dizziness, seizures, and even death. The man in the video seems to be finding it hard to focus. He's a little slow and generally doesn't appear to be in a totally normal state of mind, but he isn't totally out of it or visibly delusional, which you might expect if he was currently under the influence of mandragora. Still, if he actually took whatever he took 2 months ago and it is starting to wear off, you would expect his behaviour to be somewhat normal at this point. Realistically, I don't think there's any drug that is potent enough to produce a high that lasts for 2 months without killing you much sooner than that. It has been suggested that the man was actually only tripping for a much shorter length of time, possibly even a few hours, but because psychedelics can cause distortion of time perception, he believes it's been 2 months. This is much more likely than the trip actually lasting 2 months, but the man does give the date of the day he's been filming. Given that he seems relatively competent while he's filming, it would be surprising if his perception of time was that wrong. Perhaps he was only under the effect of the drug for a day, but it caused some kind of psychosis that has lasted for 2 months, and he wasn't able to tell the difference between the trip and the psychosis. Of course, it's possible that the video is just a hoax, but it's not that unbelievable. The man is acting strange enough, but in a subtle way, to make it look very plausible that he is under the influence. He's not dramatic or over the top about it. I am dubious about the backstory of the clip apparently being found on a park bench, but that's just what the uploader claimed to remember about the backstory. It supposedly wasn't his video. He could have been lying. When he uploaded the video, he said he couldn't find it anywhere else recently. It's plausible that he downloaded the video the first time he saw it though. His first ever upload, 6 years before this, was about Datura, so it seems he had an interest in that. A lot of his other videos appear to be re-uploads of someone else's content too, so this video doesn't stand out that much in the context of his others. As I said already, it's unlikely that the man in the video had taken Datura, so if the uploader created the video, why would he include Datura in the title? If he wanted it to sound like Datura, he could have said boiled the seeds in the video rather than boiled the roots. Whether or not this video is a hoax, I'd still be intrigued to find out its origin, and if it is real, what happened to the man. If I am right about the trip wearing off a long time ago and the man experiencing psychosis ever since, I'd be quite worried about his well-being long term. Furthermore, a few people have pointed out what appears to be a gun on the set of drawers behind him. It's a little hard to make out for sure because the video quality is quite poor. But whether he is still tripping or he's suffering with psychosis, a gun is not an object you want to leave lying around. It sounds like the next mystery occurred before the internet was widely available and isn't actually about the internet per se, but it was posted by someone on Reddit, so I'm still counting it. The comment read, "Back before the internet, before AOL was a big thing, me and some buds made a relay message setup that used some abandoned telegraph lines in my town. We were too cheap to pay for the phone time, and C64s. And we made these cards that would send out electrical impulses that would be deciphered on the other end. It was painfully slow, like 2 bits a second, and could take an hour to get a large message across. Also, only one person could send a message at a time, or the receiver would get mixed letters. Now that I think about it, it was basically a telegraph that was operated by computers. Our computers would identify themselves to each other and we could see who sent the message looking at a 3-digit identification code that would be sent with a message automatically. One day I was sitting listening and waiting for my friend to send me something. We would call ahead to let each other know before we sent so the other party could receive. I started getting a message that had no identifier and it read something like, if memory doesn't fail me, Echo Cadillac 27561047301849 It spat random numbers. The message played for about 5 minutes and wasn't too long, but I called my friend and he got it too. We never did figure out what that was. It was a closed system on abandoned telegraph lines that had been cut. We ended up blaming it on a computer error in BASIC or something, but it never happened again. Or maybe some kid from school found out and wanted to mess with us. Who knows? Fun times. I'm far from an expert when it comes to technology, and it sounds like this occurred before I was even born, so honestly, my understanding of how this system worked is very limited. I didn't even know what a C64 was and had to Google. For anyone as clueless as me, the Commodore 64 was an 8-bit home computer introduced in 1982 and discontinued 12 years later. It actually holds the Guinness World Record for the highest selling single computer model of all time. OP stated in a comment that the telegraph lines ran by his house and he just climbed a pole, hooked on some 300 kHz coax line and used some alligator clips near a set of insulators. When asked if he was using a standard protocol, he replied, "I don't know, I think it was some kind of old floppy disk driver program my friend hacked up. I just remember he gave me this little metal box that plugged into the serial port, might have been the control port, and had 2 wires coming out of the other end. I wasn't very tech savvy, so the details aren't really there, but it was cool. It might have been an old modem he reused because it was the size of a shoebox. The code was on a floppy disk, and I paid him a few bucks for the parts. I don't think someone could have figured it out so easily, but we used it for a couple of years, so maybe word got around." I'm not sure exactly how OP could have received this random message, but if that happened to me when I was a child, I'd probably be freaking out a bit. As he suggested, it could have been some kid from school messing with him. He said in that comment that he and his friends used the system for about 2 years, so it is possible that word got around. It could have even been his friend messing with him. He said he considered that, but his friend seemed convincing enough. If it was his friend or someone from school though, it's a bit of a random message to leave. OP doesn't seem to have any idea what Echo Cadillac, followed by a string of random numbers, even means. There are endless possibilities for prank messages. Why choose something that's just baffling and doesn't seem to mean anything? You would also think that his friend would have eventually confessed, or if it was someone from school, they would have told others and word would have got around, but who knows? I wonder if the message was some kind of code that did have a meaning though. It wouldn't mean anything to a kid who set up this system as a novel way to communicate with his friends, but it seems too specific to not mean anything to anyone. I tried Googling to see if there was any significance in the Echo Cadillac part, but didn't find anything that is likely to relate to this. Most results were on Cadillac cars. One commenter suggested that they picked up a shortwave emergency action message signal, and that the Echo Cadillac was the passkey and the string of numbers was the message. According to monitoringtimes.com, emergency action message generally refers to a category of urgent messages from commanders to deployed forces, but EAM is often used as a shorthand expression for a specially coded nuclear attack directive. It'd be pretty crazy if the system OP and his friends set up happened to pick up a code like this and they had no idea the significance of it. I don't know how likely that is, but you never know. Similarly, another user commented, "Somewhere in a remote location, an abandoned computer terminal just read this and tried to initiate a missile launch at Canada." Another user replied, "I don't know why, but the idea of some decades abandoned bunker, lit by amber glow of the last few incandescent bulbs still burning, whirling to life as the only remaining terminal happens to stumble across the code it's been waiting so long for before kicking up an error that will never be read, when the launch signal is met by a debris-filled silo, seems like such a compelling and beautiful thought." That's a compelling thought for sure, but pretty terrifying at the same time. OP said he had considered similar theories, quote, "I kinda wondered if it was a numbers station or something, but I don't think we used anything too complicated and no encryption of any type. I was telling some other guy I eventually became a ham, and looking back, the receiver cards probably used some type of Morse code that converted digital bits into electronic pulses, so maybe the software picked up the message if the wattage of the frequency was high enough for the wires to pick up." So this is still a bit of a mystery, and OP will probably never know for sure where that message came from, unless it was his friend and they reconnect at some point and he confesses. I do enjoy personal mysteries like this though, along with mysteries from the really early days of the internet that have become so obscure that there are only a few scattered recollections of them online and you have to dig deep to find any information. If anyone knows of any other mysteries like this, please tell me about it in the comments. And while I'm at it, let me know if you enjoyed this nostalgic internet mysteries video idea. I found enough mysteries when researching for this to make at least 2 more episodes, and I'm down if you are. Anyway, on to the next. "666" was the username of a YouTube channel that was created in 2005, the same year that YouTube was founded. This channel pretty much flew under the radar until February 2008, when a user by the name of Nana825763 uploaded a video simply titled Username 666. In the video, Nana shows a screen recording of him entering the URL youtube.com/666. He's met with a message reading, "This account is suspended." However, when he refreshed the page multiple times, strange things began occurring. First, the thumbnails of the recommended videos stopped showing and were replaced with 666, and soon the screen turned red. As Nana refreshed the page more, black splodges appeared in the red background and the text became more distorted. Eventually, he was able to view the 666 channel, though most of the details were obscured by a strange red and black pattern. He played a couple of videos uploaded by 666, which were surreal and creepy, appearing to show blood, hands and bugs. When Nana clicked the second video, he was unable to go back, pause it, close the window, or even shut down his computer. No matter what he did, the video continued playing, until a hand appeared to reach out of the video and the computer crashed. There is a similar story relating to username 666 that also circulated around the time. Someone posted on YouTube about their experience with the channel, quote, "I worked for YouTube during 2006. I was a busy employee and uploaded videos there too. What I didn't know was why some of the YouTube moderators had suspended a particularly troublesome account. I was more so wondering why I wasn't allowed to visit the page rather than what was on it. Eventually, one of the other moderators handed me a piece of paper with a written link on it. He then pleaded me not to ask about the secret username ever again. The link led to a user page. The URL was simple: www.youtube.com/666. That day, I went home after work and typed it into my computer, finding that the account was suspended. But when I refreshed the page several times, something's changed. The layout became gradually more red and distorted. All of the video tags turned into the letters X666, and every single piece of text on the screen also said 666. I thought someone was hacking my computer, but I denied it and continued to refresh the page. Just then, a channel popped up, 666's banned channel. I looked at some of the videos. Most of them were crazy depictions of gore, smothered in distorted, swirled graphics. I decided to leave the video I was watching and went back to click on another one, but a blank pop-up appeared instead. I clicked an empty button and it took me to another video by 666. The video consisted of a woman drowning in a pool of blood and other horrible things happening. Naturally, I thought this was disgusting, so I tried to pause it. It didn't let me. It wasn't responding. I decided to close Internet Explorer, but it wouldn't budge. Going on another video didn't work either. I thought there was no way out until I remembered. The shutdown button, of course. I decided to shut down my computer so whatever virus this was would relinquish its hold, but the button wouldn't work. Shutdown buttons respond all the time. I knew then that I must have been hacked. All hope was lost. I couldn't get out of Explorer, and the video just kept going on and on. The girl in it was staring at me, all while random, horrible sounds burst from my speakers. At the very end, her hand popped out of the video box and crashed my computer. After a few days, I was fired. That horrid experience with 666's channel had affected me too much, and I could no longer work my job. That was when I thought of something. Could this actually have been made by the devil, or was it just a joke to scare YouTubers? Either way, the myth was very mysterious. I hadn't gotten any sleep after watching those videos. I wonder who made them. So this description is almost identical to what happens in Nana's video, and as interesting as they are, they're obviously fictional, and this is just a creepypasta. Multiple people have visited the page and tried refreshing multiple times, and nothing ever happened. It was still quite a terrifying mystery for many at the time though. I think I first heard about it when I was about 9 years old, and it certainly creeped me out. Even though the story accompanying the account was clearly made up, there were still a few questions that were left unanswered. Who created the account, and why did it get suspended? If you visited the page around 2011, you'd be met with a message that read, "This account has been terminated due to repeated or severe violations of our community guidelines and/or claims of copyright infringement." It's a little more descriptive than the original message, but still doesn't really provide any useful information. According to the creepypasta, 666 was banned because it had posted adult content and gore, but there's no way of verifying that. As for who is behind 666, no one knows for sure. Some believed it might be Nana, as there is some information to suggest that he actually created the story surrounding it, rather than just making a video based on an existing creepypasta. If he created the 666 account though, I don't know why he'd wait a year and a half to make his video on it. It seems more likely that he came across the already suspended channel and decided to come up with the law. The identity of the creator of the channel probably isn't really important or interesting, because there was never anything actually creepy about the channel in the first place, besides its name of course. Username 666 has mostly been forgotten about now, replaced by newer and more complex mysteries. So much so that not many people seem to have noticed that around 4 months ago, the channel got unbanned, which is a bit of a mystery in itself. It seems to have been suspended for around 18 years, so why would it randomly get reinstated now? It was banned in the first place for violations of community guidelines or copyright complaints, and usually when a channel is banned, it stays banned, unless it was found to be a mistake, which usually happens shortly after the ban. I don't think I've ever heard of a channel getting unbanned almost 2 decades later. The About section states that the user joined on the 8th of September 2005, so it appears to be the original account. It's not like YouTube just reset the account so the username would be available for someone else. I saw a couple of comments suggesting that whoever created the channel sold it recently, but as far as I'm aware, it wouldn't be possible to sell a banned account. Whoever bought it wouldn't be able to access it either. I don't even know if whoever is behind it is even aware that the channel has been reinstated. They haven't posted any videos, and there are only 2 videos in their favourites playlist. One was removed due to copyright, and the other was posted in November 2005, so 666 probably added it sometime before they were banned. There's nothing to suggest they've done anything with the channel recently. They might not have even signed in. Who knows if they're even still alive? If they are though, and they have no intentions of posting themselves, it'd be a pretty good idea to sell the account now. It's now one of the oldest channels on the site. The username 666 is pretty desirable, not to mention its association with one of the earliest YouTube mysteries. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what, if anything, happens with this channel in the future. It might be a bit of a stretch to call this an internet mystery, but it was posted on the internet and didn't attract a huge amount of attention, so I still wanted to include it in this video. On the 22nd of April 2007, a man named Matt made a post on his LiveJournal blog titled, "My sister, Nicole Vienna, has gone missing in Syria." At the time, 32-year-old Nicole was approaching the end of her 6-month solo adventure through West Africa and the Middle East. She was last seen by a receptionist leaving the Cairo Hotel in Hama at around 8:30 a.m. on the 31st of March 2007 after she had asked for directions to a couple of attractions nearby. She had left most of her belongings at the hotel, suggesting she intended to return, including her backpack, memory cards full of photos, and her guidebook, with written directions to various places she probably planned to visit or had already visited. Her journals were also found in the room, and the latest entry was written the night before. The last emails she sent were 2 days before her disappearance. She had attempted to sign into her account the next day but was unsuccessful, possibly due to problems with internet connection. Despite the area around the hotel being quite busy, even early in the morning, no one remembered seeing Nicole, which was a little unexpected. As a Canadian, it'd be fair to say she stood out as she didn't dress like the locals. It seemed that she had left the hotel, then just vanished into thin air. Matt posted elsewhere online, including on Reddit, and continued to update the blog, but unfortunately, he never had much significant information to update with. He and Nicole's fiancé, Gary, flew to Syria in May 2007 to retrace her steps and meet with police. Gary stayed there for 2 months trying to locate Nicole or find any clues that might suggest what happened to her. Her mother also went in July and made a plea on national TV, as well as putting notices in newspapers and posters in the area. They returned in April 2008 and again the following year, but any leads that popped up were quickly dismissed and they were back to square one. On the 5th anniversary of Nicole's disappearance, Matt uploaded the original post for the last time, quote, "Today marks 5 years since Nicole disappeared from the Cairo Hotel or in the vicinity of Hama. Despite 5 years of searching, we really have no new clues as to what has happened to her, though we strongly suspect one of the hotel staff was involved. Syria today is very different from Syria 5 years ago. There are certainly no tourists in Hama anymore, and there probably won't be any going there in the immediate future either. Hollywood tells us that stories always have an ending, but unfortunately that's just not true. In those first few weeks, we were so confident we'd figure out what happened, and then as each lead dried up, the worry in the back of our minds increased. What if we never find her? That has turned out to be the case, and we may end up being one of those families still searching 20 or 30 years later. You can never really give up. Other people continue to offer suggestions and take action. It is very difficult to keep up hope after so much time has passed. All we need is one person who knows or suspects what happens to come to us, but they'll probably be in Syria and unlikely to have access to us anymore. Hopefully one day. The escalation of the conflict in Syria would have inevitably hindered any potential developments in Nicole's disappearance. From what I've heard, the situation in 2007 was actually the best that it had been in quite some time before or after, but 2010 is where things really started to escalate. Matt mentioned in an earlier post that a number of Syrian people had reached out and offered advice and support, but given the awful situation they were experiencing themselves, they would have been limited in what they could do to help. As the country entered a full-blown civil war, its citizens had their own safety to worry about, and authorities would have had new cases to deal with every day. Matt knew this, and you can tell in this post that his hope had started to die quite some time ago. He stated that he strongly suspects one of the hotel staff was involved, and this is a plausible theory, considering the last person to see Nicole was the receptionist, and no one in the busy area surrounding the hotel reported seeing her after. According to Matt, it took staff at the hotel a while to report her missing, which is a bit of a red flag, especially presuming they knew she was there alone. A lot of comments I read online from people who have visited Syria describe the locals as welcoming and kind. It sounds like it would be out of character for them to not report someone missing as soon as they realised. Given that she was last seen in the morning, it's pretty unlikely that someone on the street would have kidnapped her in broad daylight without attracting any attention, unless they managed to lure her somewhere quieter. Kidnapping is perhaps the most plausible explanation though. There's no information to suggest she would have voluntarily disappeared, and what would she have done in Syria anyway, especially with rising tensions making the country more dangerous? Her plan was to go to Turkey after Syria, and it was determined that she never entered Turkey. It doesn't sound like she planned to go on a hike that day or visit a remote or treacherous area, so it seems unlikely that she got lost or injured in the wilderness. On the 31st of March 2017, Matt made another post on his blog. 10 years later, Nicole is still missing. It has now been 10 years since Nicole disappeared, and we still don't know what happened to her. Something I never dreamed I would ever say. The world has moved on. No one reads LiveJournal anymore, and I'm not sure this blogging site will last another 5 years. I had to relearn how to write an update because everything has changed, and I can no longer edit the original posts like I used to. Many of the websites I saved as reference no longer exist. In my own life, I've got 2 children that Nicole will never meet, and will know of her only through photos and stories. I live in a house that Nicole saw from the outside, but that she will never visit. I have and will experience joys and heartbreaks that I will never be able to share with her. There is a gap in my life, but it is slowly closing. This is good in that we all need to heal, but as Nicole fades from people's memory, there is sadness. Syria remains a disaster. As The Lonely Planet, one of Nicole's favourite guidebooks, says, Syria is one of the most dangerous places on the planet. To put it simply, you can't go, and if you can, you shouldn't. Up to 500,000 people killed, nearly 2 million wounded, and at least 4 million in exile as refugees. It is horrifying. And it makes it impossible for us to find out what happened. Our only hope is that someone with information decides to share it with us, but how many people who were there have survived? When people are struggling to eat and find shelter, confessing to us will never be a priority. We are learning to accept that we will never know, but that doesn't make it any easier. Matt's final post on the blog was on the 31st of March 2022, and unsurprisingly, there still weren't any developments. 15 years have passed, and still no Nicole. There's not a lot of new things to say after 15 years. Nicole is still missing, there are still no leads, Syria is still a mess. And I don't think any of that is going to have changed when I post again 5 and 10 years from now, much as I wish it would. This case made me reflect on the advancements in technology and the internet itself, and how it's changed the development of missing persons cases over time. Nicole's case never got a huge amount of media attention, and there isn't a great deal of information online beyond what Matt has posted himself. There are plenty of cases in 2024 that fly under the radar, but with the rise of social media, it's much easier to spread the word much further. Social media was still in the relatively early days in 2007. Plenty of people were active, but nowhere near on the level they are today, particularly in countries like Syria. The first iPhone was released only a couple of months prior to Nicole's disappearance, and phones then didn't have many of the features they have today that can help keep us safe, or at least provide more information if we go missing. I've travelled to a few countries alone. Not all of them were the safest for a solo woman, but I'm lucky to have a phone that allows me to constantly share my location with friends, instantly update them on my plans, even send photos and videos of my surroundings if I don't feel safe. I can use Google Maps to plan journeys and minimise the risk of getting lost along the way. I can get notifications of any potentially dangerous activity in the area. Phones today can even detect if you fall and contact emergency services for you. From what I've read about Nicole, she would have absolutely made use of these features if they were available at the time, but it sounds like she wasn't even able to reliably access her emails all the time, and from what I gather, that was her main method of communication. This isn't to say that if Nicole was in the same situation in 2024 that she wouldn't have gone missing. Unfortunately, people disappear all the time, but it does make you feel grateful to consider the resources we can make use of today that didn't exist a few years ago. Matt's decision to post about his sister's disappearance online did help the investigation in some ways. He shared the details of a man whose name was written in the guest book at one of the places Nicole planned to visit, hoping the man might have seen something. This was in 2007, so as I said before, Matt's reach would have been limited and it was a bit of a long shot. But in 2019, 12 years later, he updated the section to inform readers that the man had contacted him. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to provide any information, but at least that ruled him out as a person of interest. Had Nicole gone missing before the internet became a thing, her disappearance would likely have been long forgotten, yet years later, people are still hearing about the case for the first time. Despite this, it's now been over 17 years since Nicole disappeared, and it doesn't sound like her family is any closer to finding out what happened to her. Someone has to know something, and I can only hope they get answers one day. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts and theories in the comments, plus any other nostalgic internet mysteries you'd like me to cover in the future. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. Huge thank you to my Ko-fi members and channel members whose names are on screen now. I really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time in a new video.